I feel like this video is gonna be hella spiritual experience. Hi everyone, it happened. It happened unexpectedly, though everybody was expecting it. It happened, and ever since, I just can't get myself around any Frank Ocean music without struggling through different kind of emotions, feelings, states of mind, all at once. It's difficult, yet tempting as fuck. Kind of like a forbidden fruit. There's tears of joy, tears of sadness, melancholy, ease, fun stuff. There's depth, and there's Mr. Frank Ocean himself. My first serious Frank Ocean impression was back in 2012 when he performed at MTV Video Music Awards with his all-time favorite hit, Thinking About You, from his official debut record channel Orange, which I consider one of the best music records in history, obviously. And it was such a simple and extremely moving performance. There was something about Frank's voice that I've never noticed before when he was around my favorite Odd Future and such. This one performance totally got me hooked and blown away. Frank is always kind of mellowish, like he's a bit stoned yet repentant. He could seduce you, though speak to you very carefully, like he's afraid to hurt you. I remember actually shedding a tear watching him perform there live. It was a very emotional experience. In December, in the interview with The Guardian that year, he joked about how he might never release a follow-up for Orange. And for some time this summer, I actually believed that. He was hinting summer releases since 2013, while firing his stuff, deleting his internet presence, except Tumblr, of course. And let's face it, in modern times, there's no art more provocative than the art of disappearance. He was also sharing demos, and I remember when one of our most favorite video directors and Frank's good friend and collaborator, Nabil, shared all the info about how fire his brand new release will be. In April last year, Ocean announced a new album and a magazine of some sort, both titled Boys Don't Cry, which had to be premiered in July, summer release again. The caption on that now gone Tumblr post said, "I've got two versions." In July 2016, the rarely updated Boys Don't Cry website was hinting new dates as a summer release once again. July went by, nothing came on. A month later, August 1st, there's a mysterious video livestream with workbenches and a boombox. Everyone's saying August 6th, but that date again, nothing happened. August 18th, the livestream has been updated, and now there is actual Frank Ocean himself in it. And there are new songs playing. A visual album called Endless drops, but it ain't a Orange follow-up. The follow-up, accompanied by the magazine, drops on August 20th with the title song called Nikes and the music video for it. In our video today, we'll try to talk about all of this in order of its release time. First, the so-called visual album Endless. I prefer to refer to it as audio-visual experience rather than an album, which for obvious reasons associates more with such incredible music films as Kanye's Runaway or Beyonce's Lemonade. Endless isn't it? It's very different, as pretty much everything Frank Ocean does. Its current known form is a short, posted online film where different workshop sessions cuts are accompanied by lo-fi, experimental, half-dream, half-reality soundtrack. The main subtext underneath whole Frank Ocean builds a staircase thing is, I think, quite clear. He's not only a musician, a lyricist, an essayist, whatever. He is a craftsman, and his crafting requires time. Original uncutted version is rumored to be 140 hours long. In the film, he's building every single element of the final complex structure, a stairway in this case. And the video is like a proof of the whole transparency behind the building of something. Imagine a house building process, or cooking your favorite dish, or some type of clothes designing, filmed. There's also the same kind of process with creating music. This time we, the audience, the consumers, are invited to see messy, imperfect, weird, sometimes quite boring and completely not as exciting as it should be creative process. The music plays an obvious important role in that scenario. You could say that Endless is like a build-up for Blond, which came out a couple of days after. Less studio polished material and thought through material, I think. The tracks, they doesn't entirely flow one into another, though the whole album isn't even available for the listen with separated tracks. It's one complete united piece. It begins and ends with the same synth pop device control track by German techno-electronic artist Wolfgang Tillmans. The song reflects on modern society mobile devices obsession and how the line between still and motion is fading away. Ocean speaks about another kind of human communication, appearing on Endless for the first time on a beautiful slow motion cover of At Your Best, You Are Love, originally by the Brothers. It was surfacing the web before, but it never sounded as good as here. I think the most captivating thing about Endless is its formlessness. Throughout the changing tones of gentle guitars and ambient electronic floating, the songs observe the surroundings quite a lot. The skies, the sunshine, mist, flowers, gardens, suburbs. And for 45 minutes of the entire album, there's pure reality reflection. And the lyrics, they're reminiscent and romantic, reminding us of the early Renaissance poets. Ocean's voice in it is incredible. It's not the strongest in terms of range, but he can do things vocally, using falsetto that will definitely make you feel something he wants you to feel. On track Alabama, which I really like, and in a couple of other tracks, there's another amazing vocalist featured. Her name is Jasmine Sullivan, and her voice is so beautiful. And with Frank, it sounds just mesmerizing and blissful. In the very same Alabama track, you can also hear vocals from Sampha. The list of other collaborators is very impressive. Our favorite James Blake, Radiohead's Johnny Greenwood, experimental producer Arca, indie rock artist Alex G, French mastermind and musician Sebastian, and some other great artists. All the other shorter tracks and interludes are very pretty and mastered, yet they sound very draftish. I love Comme des Garçons song, for example, or the gentle summer heat guitar and electronic beats accompany tracks like Wither, Slide to Me, Rushes. I like the weird production on a short track called Higgs, with its pitched vocals and crazy electro noising. This track is basically the very last Frank piece on Endless, his last how dreaming thought on the outside world. One of the last steps on the stairway he builds. When the video and album dropped, I was looking at the thing and wondering, where could Frank Ocean try to take me with it? I believe that's the exact reaction he wanted from people. Could the Stairway's reach be Blond album? What do you think? Then Nikes came out, the song and the music video, directed by Tyron Levin, who by the way worked with Ocean previously on his Calvin Klein campaign, which is also an amazing one. The music video is like a narcotic haze, with hundreds of different visions and shots from variety of dreams and real life moments. I love when we hear about no photos at the party rule, but in the video they show us this exact party, craftily staged and filmed for us to watch. The authenticity of it there is very ironic. In the video there's a woman spreading her legs and letting the white lights and glitter burst from around down there. There's a person on fire, there's a naked girl on a white horse, there's someone having sex, there's man dressed like devil in a theater, there's Chihuahua dog rapping. Overall, there's just a lot of absolute bizarre stuff. The whole video is basically like a stream of consciousness. In the track, above all the underwater chill tones, above all the underwater-like chill tunes, Ocean covers his voice in distortion to create two characters, perhaps the two sides of his personality. They critique materialism, they refer to Shakespeare, talk about sex, lovers and passed away friends. ASAP Yams, Martin, and others. You can also see ASAP Rocky and Frank himself honoring them in the music video. The version of Nikes in the album is different. It only has a high-pitched voice without the low one. There could also be this "I've got two versions" thing, but with it he could also just talk about that there's two versions of the Blond album. The other one is in the Boys Don't Cry magazine, which was available at some pop-up stores in the day of the release. But yeah, he could also mean whoever knows what else. Boys Don't Cry magazine is filled with poems, such as an incredibly emotional one called Boyfriend, different interviews and photos of hot cars and beautiful people. Aesthetically, magazine reminds a Tumblr feed back when it was relevant and huge. T-shirt from the Nikes video Frank wears with Jenny Holzer's truisms printed on it. Kanye picking up french fries at McDonald's drive-thru. Artist Tom Zach's studio shots. Internet search history from apparently Frank and other collaborators. In the beginning notes, Frank writes about his obsession with cars. It might be a part of a deep subconscious straight boy fantasy, he wrote. In the magazine there's photos of ocean against all the beautiful cars. There's racers also, all the nudity and automobiles. After the straight boy fantasy, he also adds, consciously though, I don't want a straight. A little band is good. In the magazine you can find photos of both nude men and women. Throughout the whole thing, it's hard to tell whether all the new work has a defined gender. In the Nikes video and a couple of photo shoots for design, Frank wears strong black eyeliner. There's Jack Eichen, Crystal LaBeijah's speech featured, sampled on Endless album. And even the name of the album, Blond, both announced in feminine and masculine forms of its title. On the cover of Blond, Frank's hair dyed in neon green, a kind of genderless color choice. On the 2011's mixtape, Nostalgia Ultra, and on Orange, Frank's queerness was merely noticeable. In this album, it's very certain and explicit. I'll be the boyfriend in your wet dreams tonight on Self-Control. On Good Guy, he's in a gay bar on a blind date. On Future Free, he tells the antagonist, I don't cut bitches no more, but you bitch, my exception. And Get Some Pussy, Have a Calm Night on Nights. With all of these, he's hinting provocative ambiguity when it comes to his lover's gender. Plus, all the imagery in the Boys Don't Cry magazine and in the Nikes video provide beautiful sexual preferences specter, which in case of Ocean is more like a weapon. In 2012, Ocean posted an essay to his Tumblr in which he wrote that he had fallen in love with a man back when he was younger. And in that essay, there were words, by the time I realized I was in love, it was malignant. Love like a tumor. Something beautiful yet destructive. His recent work has a lot of same duality to it. The gorgeous, painful, sensual, romantic, sexual album, which dropped shortly after the video release on Apple Music, was announced by Frank's Tumblr with a post that read, fuck, sorry, I took a nap, but it's playing on Apple Radio right now. Its cover says Blonde without an E. Its title on a streaming service is with an E. It consists of 17 tracks and it's pure bliss. Speaking of Blonde sound, it's not entirely different from Endless. It's a sort of more mastered and crafted continuation of that visual album. Guitars and keys dominate the musical arrangements. Some dream pop vibes on Ivy, acoustic on Self-Control, progressive psychedelic rock tones on Nights. Pretty Sweet track starts with some punk reminiscent amp overload and then drops beautifully into piano. There's only a handful of tracks with electronic beats or /and glitches. Though even there, they sound very organic and natural. Modern hip-hop culture do tend to indificate itself, but Frank's work sounds above just that. Almost all the material of this record is absolutely new to the listeners and to the fans, with an exception of some songs debuted back in Munich in 2013, I think. But even they are reworked here. This album is very carefully structured. The shift from recorded phone one message from one of Frank's friend's mom on track Be Yourself, where she warns her son about marijuana making people sluggish, lazy, stupid, and unconcerned. Into Solo, which is basically an ode to drop-in acid paralysis. All the way Close to You track gently and discreetly flows into beautiful, quiet white Ferrari. Frank Ocean is a great storyteller. Coachella Weird Experience in Novocaine track, Confessions in the Taxi Cab of Bad Religion, Stripper Cleopatra reincarnation story in Pyramids. In Blond, Frank sticks to more existential topics and more melancholic, moody stuff, being led down by a potential lover, like in the track Good Guy, though the second part of this track changes, and it becomes a reflection on modern day masculinity. He also remembers the past, the boyhood, like in the track Pink Plus White, with lines in the wake of hurricane, dark skin of a summer shade, nosedive, in the flute lines, tall tower, milk crate. When singing about love relationship, Frank time mixes its phases. I broke your heart last week, lines from Ivy. You'll probably feel better by the weekend. It started from nothing, I could hate you now. There are lines about sexual experiences, and sometimes it's unwanted consequences, like on Solo. Cause ain't shit free and I know it, even love ain't. Cause it's not cost that clinic kill my soul. But you gotta hit the pussy raw though. The entire album feels very trippy, not only due to the hazy, mellowish, ambient instrumentals, but besides all the lovers' stories and boyhood memories, Ocean shares openly about drugs, marijuana, psilocybin, LSD, lines like dreaming a thought that could dream about a thought that could think of a dreamer that thought clearly provides some deep inside stoned philosophy. Godspeed, the penultimate track, is like a goodbye to boyhood, with its inevitable feeling of acceptance. And the table is prepared for you line interprets by me like an invitation to the Last Supper or the feast Frank has prepared. Mesmerizing white Ferrari shows how you can make a perfect tracks just with great songwriting skills. And we're totally wrecked when we hear Frank being the most vulnerable on Siegfried, which is a misspelling of famous warrior Siegfried. On Futura Free, a 9-minute long closing track, Frank lets us look at his life before the fame, before the hype, before the anticipation. You could tell that Frank is staying true to himself, just like Friend's mama told you in Be Yourself. Lyrically, album's seeming ease is much more complex and could become apparent only with years of its existence and re-listening. Blonde ends with a badly recorded interview and a private convo with a friend, and it seems like this is what the record's supposed to feel like. Personal and intimate, friendly and informative as a series of Q&A. The record is indulgent in a way and quite complicated to take in. It's not radio-based pop hooks and instant thrills record. It's the one that dives in textures and cares about all the little unnoticeable details. Frank Ocean is a perfectionist after all. Hearing all the collaborators list on Blonde, you can think that this is a very huge pop record, banging record, but instead you get Beyonce wordlessly harmonizing on Pink Plus White. You have Kendrick as a writer and as a producer, and rarely given additional ad-libs on SKYLINE 2, some guitar work by Johnny Greenwood. James Blake is also in the credits, but it's impossible to notice his actual contribution, though his presence and influence is undoubtful throughout the whole thing. There were other big familiar names like Kanye, Pharrell, Tyler the Creator, Rick Rubin, but I was mostly surprised to see Beatles, David Bowie, Elliott Smith, whose last name was misspelled in the list, by the way, Brian Eno, Gang of Four, Jamie XX, and Young Lin, Swedish rapper slash singer something internet phenomenon. Some of the other previously mentioned artists, I guess, are just influence or reference points, like Byron of Smith's A Fond Farewell, On Siegfried, or Here, There and Everywhere by the Beatles, whom Frank would listen in a lot and getting a lot of inspiration from, as told in one of his interviews before. I love that for some of the artists, this kind of influence reference would not be important to put in the final credits list of names. But Frank Ocean finds it as important as the featured vocalist or hip-hop artist invited to rap over a track. Austin Feinstein of the LA band Slow Hollows provide additional vocals and guitar on one of my favorites, Self-Control. There's two rappers from Japan, Ka and Luta, both collaborate with Korean hip-hop phenomenon Keith Ape on his Ijima track. Odd Future Connected longtime producer Michael Ozawa is also in the list for both Blond and Endless. Apparently, Greenwood and Blake brought some talented engineers who worked on their A Moon-Shaped Pool and The Color in Anything into Blond with them. There's also legendary producer Benjamin Wright, an engineer who worked with Nirvana, Hendrix, and the Rolling Stones, Bob Ludwig. One of the tracks also includes a cameo from gospel star Kim Burrell, the only one doing verbally something big and a true featured artist like on the album is Outkast's Andre 3000, who's fast rapping over electronic shifting bleeps and jazzy piano on solo reprise about rotten nature of adulthood. I'm humming and whistling to those not deserving, even all the modern music around is fake. It's basically a track just with him. Even there, it doesn't break the whole mood of the record. And this mood is very consistent. This is what makes its seeming weirdness into something beautiful and complete. Interesting that its consistency doesn't lose itself on the CD released in the pop-up shop version, which has a different track list. It's also interesting that on iTunes you can only buy Blond as a whole. Smart move. First, its entirety and unity. You can't really understand it without listening to the whole thing. Second, cool commercial tactic. This is probably the most successful way of releasing music these days, especially for artists like Frank Ocean, who doesn't really care that much about people saying he might not even release the follow-up. On Futura Free, he says, "I ain't on your schedule, I ain't on no schedule." Universal Music didn't like that move. Apparently, Frank tricked them. He released the visual album Endless as a part of a contract, but Endless isn't a streaming exclusive or isn't a physical thing. It's a film. Blond, though, was released as an album with all the formed, separated songs and overall with less lo-fi feel Endless has. And most importantly for Ocean, it was released independently, through collab and with the money from Apple, I suppose. So it's pretty cool. Frank Ocean pranked Universal pretty good. Following the album's release, Ocean posted on his Tumblr, "I had the time of my life making all of this. Thank you all. Especially those of you who never let me forget I had to finish." Which is basically every one of y'all. Burned, but then he added that he loves us, so it's all good. And the album totally lived up to the hype, so everybody's happy. Multi-instrumentalist, singer, songwriter, raised in New Orleans as Christopher Bro, he spent his early music business work as a ghost songwriter for such artists as Bieber or Beyonce, before joining Odd Future in LA. Ocean's tracks were never in top 30 in the charts. He's not even a real huge pop artist. He's in a totally kind of different field. For 4 years, all the fans have been wondering what Frank has been up to since Orange. And the answer probably is that he was mastering his multimedia release. The live stream, the visual album, the music video, the magazine, the sophomore LP. All of these brought an old tweet from him back when he had a Twitter account. If you're a writer, you can write anything. Prose, songs, raps, novels, plays, films, laws. Take the governor off your gift. Note to self. Frank presented not only the follow-up, but his whole creative spectrum, though we're pretty sure that it's not everything he's able to do. There are still lots of thoughts about all of this releases and Frank as an artist, but I will stop here. We can continue the conversation in the comments down below if you want. Don't forget to like and share this video and to subscribe. That will help our channel a lot. Thank you very much if you already did it. So yeah, remember how I told you in the beginning about feeling all the different emotions at once while listening to ocean stuff? Art is supposed to do that to a person. I think that's the goal of art, if there is a goal. I think there is. Therefore, Frank Ocean is a mastermind, modern art genius. Thank you, Frank. I love you, Frank. For now, people, that's all, and as always, peace off.